Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, here in this video today appeasing the frustrated, because after following last night's loss to the Washington Wizards, a lot of people are a little bit shook about the roster that we have going forward. Now, I'm still very high on this team. My stance has not changed, even after a tough loss. I said in the postgame, I said during, there's a lot of positive takeaways, but however, there's one thing that seems to still be an issue that's plaguing us from the days of old Aaron Baines, and it's a center position. And Precious Achiuwa didn't have the greatest night tonight, despite the fact he played really well in preseason and summer league. Kem Birch looked alright, looked solid, but being undersized, it's tough to really overcome unless Nick Nurse is going to run the right defensive schemes, or we have the right types of lineups out there. And there's a lot of people calling for us to acquire a 7-footer, a 6'11", a true center in the NBA. Now, you guys saw it in the thumbnail. There's one of those guys that is currently, his agent has made it known that he wants out of Sacramento. If you want the full breakdown on the situation regarding Marvin Bagley, we made a video on it on Courtside Digest, updating everyone. But to give the quick and easy take on it, Marvin Bagley essentially has been told Marvin Bagley's agent has been told by the Sacramento Kings front office coaching staff that there's no true future for him there in Sacramento. He was a DNP, did not play, coach's decision for a few of these games starting off the year and in preseason. So it's a weird situation, given the fact Marvin Bagley is, we'll dive into all of his stats, but is a former number 2 overall pick, averaged about 14 points per game over his first 3 seasons. Yes, has dealt with injuries. However, when he's been on the court, he's been able to get buckets and do different things out there. So it's weird that the Sacramento Kings currently don't want him on the court. They're playing guys, obviously they have Rashawn Holmes, but Bagley was probably expecting to be slotted in at that power forward position. They acquired Tristan Thompson now this off season, and they're running his name is slipping my mind right now, but play for the Blazers and Magic over the past few seasons. It'll come to me as this podcast goes along, over Marvin Bagley at this point inside the rotation. So it's a weird situation going on, and they say that the Sacramento Kings have been trying to hold on to Marvin Bagley because his value wasn't that high and they'd boost his value, then request a trade. Obviously, this time last year, his dad was making tweets saying, get Marvin Bagley out of Sacramento. So it's been a whole dramatic situation. But because of this, and because of the Raptors situation, people calling for us to sign a big man, I'm busting out the trade machine in this video and seeing, should the Toronto Raptors go and go after, get on the phones of Vlade Divac and say, hey, bring us Bagley, get us that number 2 overall pick, see how he can do in our system. And without, before we dive into whether or not what packages it could look like, we'll talk about Marvin Bagley, the player, and looking at him, 6'11", he's a bigger frame, not wiry, but long arms. The physical tools are there for Marvin Bagley to be a star in this league, and it's a big reason he was drafted over the likes of a Luka Doncic and Trae Young in that loaded NBA draft class. So it's Marvin Bagley, he has all the physical tools that add him in to bring into a system. And if you look at his stats, he's hasn't been as bad as a lot of people might think, given the fact he's given the reputation when you're drafted amongst a crop of DeAndre and Luka, Jaren Jackson Jr., Trae Young. That's a top 5, clearly the worst out of the top 5. But if you look at his stats, right, that's per 36. I'll get into those after, right? 15 points per game, right? 7 rebounds, can get you close to a block for most of his seasons, right? But the most discouraging thing, the least, what's really held him back from developing, from showing out, from being the guy a lot of people expected him to be with the number 2 overall pick, is if you look at games played. 62 his rookie year, not horrific, but still, missing a quarter of the season's tough. Second year, played only 13 games, and then last season, 43 games. So not the greatest look for Marvin Bagley, who just really hasn't been able to get out there on the court. But, when he's out there, he looks pretty solid. Yes, there's question marks about his defense at times. Is he a true rim protector, right? Doesn't average that many block shots, isn't the... he's tall, he can play in the lane, right? He's taller than our bigs, but isn't known to be that mobile or whatnot of a defender, but definitely can play a role that our big men can't play with that extra couple inches and wingspan. Or, they question him his rim protecting, and then they question if he plays the 4, right? Can he be mobile? I think, especially if the Raptors were to trade for him, we just assume he's a 5 with that size, that height, and, the young potential. The Nick Nurse can develop the defensive side of things. And I did want to bring one thing up, too, before I analyze why it would be a smart move or not a smart move to bring him in. Per 36. Those numbers are looking fire. I know per 36 can be misleading at times, but 20 points per game, 10 rebounds. If we could get a 20 and 10 guy inserted there at that starting center position, right, which Marvin Bagley is per 36 has shown, right? Obviously staying on the court is a big thing with him. Load management, minutes, and all that sort of stuff is an issue, but those are some encouraging numbers. I just wanted to throw that on the screen to get as many numbers as we can out there on the board. But should the Toronto Raptors trade for this guy? Should the Raptors call Vlade Divac, as I said at the beginning of this video, and make an offer? And depends on what the Kings are asking for, because as said in that quote, and if you didn't see it, check out the Courtside Digest video, right? The Kings didn't want to trade him because of his value. His value was low. They want something back for a former number 2 overall pick. But now they're not going to play him any minutes. He's a free agent by the end of the season, right? There's really no point in keeping him on your roster, especially if he doesn't want to be there and you don't want to be there. So I'd say his value is low. The big rumor trade around the NBA right now is Thaddeus Young, who right now is not in the San Antonio Spurs rotation. So that will tell you at this point. But Marvin Bagley coming in here, right? And looking at the trades, looking at the packages, they would have to be done in a couple months when all the players we signed in the offseason are eligible, but I think it would have to be Khem Birch that would get it done, who we signed to a longer-term deal. I don't know if people will be happy with that or not, but you're bringing in Bagley, and it's not that much of a risk, because if it goes horribly, if it goes bad, right, he's a free agent by the end of the season. Yes, he's getting paid $1 million this year, or $11 million. Yeah, but it's off the books by the offseason. So that's cool. That's a positive, right? And if it doesn't work out, we don't have a center all, we're not going to be that good anyway. So it's a flyer worth taking. But if it works out, if things go right, and I also want to mention, if it goes bad, you did lose Khem Birch, which Khem Birch played solid last season, had a bad start, or didn't look that great in terms of his first game with the Toronto Raptors this season, but I'm still pretty high on Khem Birch. So that's a debate down in the comment section below, right? You need to add another deep bench guy to make the money work, but we just add a Bonga or something. We'll worry. The logistics stuff, are we targeting Marvin Bagley, right? And if it goes right, and you can bring him into the Toronto Raptors development staff, right? Juice all of the potential that's left out of Marvin Bagley out of him, right? You get him working with Alex McKechnie, who we have seen just rejuvenate players' careers after they come here and they're dealing with injuries, and then, just like Kawhi Leonard missed an entire season the year before and then comes back and is completely healthy, right? If we can get Alex McKechnie just working on Marvin Bagley, getting him right, that's a recipe for success, right? Marvin Bagley, as brought up, he's still only a young player, 22, 23 years old. So the development, he fits the timeline. It's not that much of a risk. You do lose Khem Birch, but other than that, right, he could be off the books in the final season. Might be something worth doing. It might be something worth doing. Now, I know I've been on this podcast spreading the Precious propaganda. I'd still probably start Precious at this point, but having a guy that can come in, right, switch it up for you, right? Because the modern NBA, we saw the Toronto Raptors in the playoffs a couple years ago revert to playing OG Anunoby at center, right? We know how that all works. But during the course of a regular season, you need someone that's 6'11", 7 foot, that can stand underneath the lane and at least get in front of the rim, in front of a Montrezl Harrell that's trying to bully his way down there and all those sorts of stuff, right? You need someone that's competent on the offensive end that's going to be able to do that. I think Marvin Bagley can do that on the defensive end, and then you pair that along the offensive upside, right? His ability to score around the rim, his ability to get in the post and just create his own shots, his ability to, pop a few middies every now and then, right? It could be a really interesting pickup for the Toronto Raptors. Something to keep our eyes on, keep our radars on. If the Toronto Raptors had to make this trade, am I going to say on this podcast the Raptors tell Masai Ujiri, go out there and trade for this man? No, I'm not going to be that overt about it because there is risks involved with it. But if it happened, if that deal were to go down, and Masai Ujiri saw something in Marvin Bagley that that really caught his eye. I think he can get the most potential out of him. I say go for it. I'm all up for it. I'm saying bring him in. Sacramento Kings fans do not like him right now. If you scour their Reddit, they say he's, they don't dislike his personality, which is nice. He's not a young socialite, but they don't like his agent specifically after following the comments he's made. But Marvin Bagley himself, they say he's a good guy, right? He's good hustle, tries hard, all those sorts of stuff. They say he could work on his game a little bit more, but it's tough to work on your game when you're constantly dealing with injuries, right? I'd be cool with it. I think it would be an interesting move, but obviously, you let the first month of the season play out. Figure out how this roster is going to look, how the 6'9" team, the team full of 6'9" guys is going to end up playing, right? Masai Ujiri's got to figure that out. That's our current roster. That's the experiment we're running, and I'm high on the experiment, but I know a lot of people aren't. So I wanted to make this video, and I want to really hear what you guys think in the comment section below, because I think this is a very interesting topic and interesting player that the Raptors could potentially go after. But enough of me rambling. You guys are the best for making this far. You can join the channel memberships down below. There's a link. There should be a join button underneath this video as well. Lots of cool stuff coming. Merch can be had, right? That's your OGs hoodies, your hats, a few new shirts coming. So that link is down below as well. Check us out on Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter, all that cool stuff. Join the Raptors Digest Discord. The things we are plugging. It's a large margin now at this point. So, but the Discord's been a lot of fun. I like interacting with you guys. It's an easier platform to sort of connect with on there. But yeah, so join the Discord, and finally subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. We gotta, we don't really plug the subscriptions that much during the vids. Try not to do it too early, but if you made it this far to the video, subscribe to the channel. Really helps us out. Anyways, I'm signing off. Enough of me rambling. You guys are the best. Cheers.